I'm Ryan O'Dowd, and you're listening to Ryan's Audiobooks on the Issues Magazine YouTube channel. Today we're continuing with section 6-7, Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson. We're picking up chapter 4, the anal emotional territorial circuit. Run, puppy, run, puppy, run. Yonder comes the big dog, run, puppy, run. Children's rhyme. The second circuit, the emotional territorial networks of the brain, is concerned entirely with power politics. This patriotic circuit is built into all vertebrae and is perhaps 500 million to 1,000 million years old. In the modern human, it seems to be centralized in the thalamus, the back brain or old brain, and is linked with the voluntary nervous system and the muscles. This circuit appears in each newborn, when the DNA master tape sends out RNA messenger molecules to trigger the mutation from neonate to toddler, which involves first of all standing erect. Walking, mastering gravity, overcoming physical obstacles, and learning to manipulate others politically are the vulnerable points at which imprinting and heavy conditioning occur. The muscles that perform these power functions are quickly programmed with what become chronic, lifelong reflexes. Depending as always on the accidents of the environment, what happens at points of neurological vulnerability, this circuit will organize itself into a strong dominating role in the pack or family, or a weak submissive role. Without going into the jungles with the ethologists, one can observe this mammalian imprinting process in any litter of puppies. It's very quickly determined by who is top dog and who is bottom dog. Status in the pack or tribe is assigned on the basis of proverbial signaling systems, kinesics, in which these muscle reflexes are crucial. All the emotional games or cons listed in the popular psychological game manuals of Dr. Eric Byrne and the transactional analysts are second circuit imprints, or standard mammalian politics. To quote from my novel Schrodinger's Cat, most of the domesticated primates of Terra did not know they were primates. They thought they were something apart from and superior to the rest of the planet. Even Benny Benedict's 1 month ago column was based on that illusion. Benny had actually read Darwin once, in college a long time ago, and had heard of sciences like ethology and ecology, but the facts of evolution had never really registered on him. He never thought of himself as a primate. He never realized his friends and associates were primates. Above all, he never understood that the alpha males of Unistat were typical leaders of primate bands. As a result of this inability to see the obvious, Benny was constantly alarmed and terrified by the behavior of himself, his friends, and associates, and especially the alpha males of the pack. Since he didn't know it was ordinary primate behavior, it seemed just awful to him. Since a great deal of primate behavior was considered just awful, most of the domesticated primates spent most of their time trying to conceal what they were doing. Some of the primates got caught by other primates. All of the primates lived in dread of getting caught. Those who got caught were called no-good shits. The term no-good shit was a deep expression of primate psychology. For instance, one wild primate, a chimpanzee, taught sign language by two domesticated primates, scientists, spontaneously put together the signs for shit and scientist to describe a scientist she didn't like. She was calling him shit scientist. She also put together the signs for shit and chimpanzee for another chimpanzee she didn't like. She was calling him shit chimpanzee. You know good shit, domesticated primates often said to each other. This metaphor was deep in primate psychology, because primates marked their territories with excretions, and sometimes they threw excretions at each other when disputing over territories. One primate wrote a long book describing in vivid detail how his political enemies should be punished. He imagined them in an enormous hole in the ground with flames and smoke and rivers of shit. This primate was named Dante Alighieri. Another primate wrote that every primate infant goes through a stage of being chiefly concerned with biosurvival, i.e. food, i.e. mommy's titty. He called this the oral stage. He said the infant next went to a stage of learning mammalian politics, i.e. recognizing the father and his authority and territorial demands. He called this, with an insight that few primates shared, the anal stage. This primate was named Freud. He had taken his own nervous system apart and examined its component circuits by periodically altering its structure with neurochemicals. Among the anal insults exchanged by domesticated primates when fighting for their space were up your ass, go shit in your hat, you're full of shit, and many others. One of the most admired alpha males in the kingdom of the Franks was General Cambronne. Cambronne won this adulation for the answer he gave when asked to surrender at Waterloo. Merde was the answer General Cambronne gave. The word petard means a kind of bomb. It comes from the same Old English root as fart. General Cambronne's mentality was typical of the alpha males of the military caste. When primates went to war or got violent in other ways, they always said they were about to knock the shit out of the enemy. They also spoke of dumping on each other. The standard authority reflex on the emotional territorial circuit is to swell the muscles and howl. You will find this among birds as well as mammals, and in the board meeting of your local bank. The standard submission reflex is to shrink the muscles, lower the head, and crawl away. You will find this among dogs, primates, fowl, and employees who wish to keep their jobs everywhere. If the first circuit is chiefly imprinted by the mother, the second circuit is chiefly imprinted by the father, the nearest alpha male. It has been proposed by sociologist G. Rattray Taylor that societies swing back and forth between matris periods in which motherly oral values predominate and patris periods in which fatherly anal values are in ascendance. Taylor's table of the characteristics of these matris and patris periods is as follows. Matris, permissive towards sex, freedom for women, women have high status, chastity is not valued, egalitarian, progressive, no distrust of research, spontaneous, sex differences minimized, fear of incest, hedonic, mother goddess. Patrist, restrictive towards sex, limitation of freedom for women, women have low status, chastity is highly valued, authoritarian, conservative, distrust of research, inhibitions, sex differences maximized, fear of homosexuality, ascetic, father god. Whether or not societies wobble between these extremes as Taylor claims, individuals certainly do. These are merely the consequences of A, having the heaviest imprint on the oral biosurvival circuit, or B, having the heaviest imprint on the anal territorial circuit. In pre-ethological terms, the emotional territorial circuit is what we usually call ego. Ego is simply the mammalian recognition of one's status in the pack. It's a role, as sociologists say, a single brain circuit which mistakes itself for the whole self, the entire brain-mind apparatus. The egotist behaves like a 2-year-old, in the common saying, because ego is the imprint of the toddling and toilet training stage. The question of how human an animal is, especially a pet dog or cat, never ceases to divide scientists from laypersons, and one scientist from another. In terms of the present theory, the differences between domesticated primates, humans, and other domesticated animals are virtually nil, as long as we are talking only about the first two circuits. Since most people spend most of their time on these primitive circuits, the differences are often much less obvious than the similarities. Real differences begin to appear when the third, semantic circuit enters the picture. Most mammals mark their territories with excretions. Domesticated primates mark their territories with ink excretions on paper. For instance, novice dog trainers always make the mistake of using too many words. Because the dog is so human in so many ways, canines like primates are great mimics, the novice imputes too much humanity to them. The average dog has a vocabulary of around 150 words, and within that semantic universe is quite bright. It's very easy to teach the dog the meaning of sit, stay, attack, etc., and the dog will learn the meaning of walk and food even without you trying to teach him. The problem begins when the novice expects the dog to understand something like no Fritz, anywhere else in the bedroom, but not in the bed. Even a non-English speaking human would not grasp that except vaguely. The dog gives up on such sentences and guesses what he can from your mammalian body language. Understanding these distinctions can vastly improve primate-canine communication. For instance, my wife, a sociologist, trained our dog Fang not to beg at the table in the most direct mammalian language possible. She simply growled at him the first few times he approached her while she was eating. She had been reading ethology, of course. Fang understood fully. He soon learned to avoid the table while the pack leaders, my wife and myself, were eating. His genetic programs told him we were the big dogs, or as close to the big dogs as he could find in the environment. Dogs, like wolves, have a genetic program about not annoying the big dogs while they're eating. The growl told him all he needed to know about the local parameters of that rule. Fang, incidentally, was a Dachshund Labrador mix. and strange looking to most humans. People would stop me on the street when I was walking him and ask, "What is that?" Persons who take the heaviest imprint on this territorial emotional circuit tend to be musculotonic. That is, they hold most of their attention and energy in the muscular attack defense systems and grow up medium weight, heavy enough to be hard to knock down, light enough to be quick and sinewy. Often they became bodybuilders, weightlifters, etc., and have an extraordinary absorption in demonstrating their strength. Even shaking hands with them, you get the message that they are not exchanging energy, but demonstrating power. Most societies shunt these types into the military, where their propensities are put to proper ethological use, defending the tribal turf. The anal orientation of this circuit explains the oddity of military speech, first noted by Norman Mailer. Ass means one's whole self, and shit means all surrounding circumstance. This concludes today's reading of section 6-7 of Prometheus Rising by Robert Anton Wilson. Tomorrow we will continue further, picking up again in Chapter 4, the Anal Emotional Territorial Circuit, with Section 6-8. I will see you then. Alam.